artists, hope everyone is well. In this video we are going to be drawing a mandala. So if you have ever drawn a mandala before, you know that it usually starts with a circle in the middle, and you can make it grow by either adding shapes around your starting circle, or you can draw lines that branch out, and you basically keep repeating lines and shapes over and over again. And every time you finish around in a circle, then you go to the outside row and draw something else. So you can keep going and going until you fill up your entire page, depending on how big you would like your mandala. So your supplies for this project are some blank paper. I'm actually going to draw on colored paper just to mix it up a little bit. I would use a light color if you're doing construction paper, yellow, light blue, or pink. I also like how it looks on tan paper, but since we will be coloring with art supply of your choice today, kind of think about what color paper would work well with your art supplies. So if you know you're doing marker, you might want to just stick to white paper, but colored pencils tend to look pretty good on all different colors, so I'm going to leave that up to you. You're also going to need a pencil and an eraser. Like always, if you like to outline your drawing, this is a good one to do that because it'll make your shapes stand out. So you can use a black marker. And I am going to trace some kind of circle. If you would like a big round mandala, you can use a lid or a container, something pretty large that fits on your paper. If you would rather just hand draw a tiny circle in the middle and then make it grow from there, you can also do that. So let's get started. So a mandala originated in India and the Middle East, and the idea is that the shape of a mandala should all be connected. So even though I used many different lines and shapes and patterns in this one, you can see that they all started in the middle and it's connected in one shape. So you're not drawing different patterns and lines and shapes. They all are connected. And it's supposed to make you feel very peaceful, and it's almost like a kind of meditation when you're drawing, so that you're not really thinking too hard, you're just kind of drawing what comes to mind. Almost like a planned out doodle. There are some smaller ones that I did. If you prefer to draw a few smaller mandalas on your paper, you can. Just make sure they're big enough where they are the focus of your artwork and that the background doesn't take up too much room. So something to think about when you are looking at this mandala that I made up close is that a lot of the designs are inspired by nature. So a good place to start, sometimes you can draw a tiny flower in the middle because they have a circle in the center. You can also draw a star shape. A lot of mandalas also have hexagons in the middle. So a hexagon is a six-sided shape. Here is just a simple one that I did with a hexagon. But that's a little bit trickier because you have to draw 6 equal sides. Snowflakes have a similar structure to a mandala drawing because snowflakes are symmetrical all around them in a circular way. So symmetrical means the same on all sides. So a mandala will not look symmetrical unless you do the same thing all the way around. That's the key to a successful drawing. So in this video, I'm going to draw you 2 versions of ways you can make a mandala. The first one, I'm just going to start with a small hand-drawn circle in the middle of my paper. Very small. And the closer to the middle that you draw it, the more symmetrical your design will be on your paper. But if you know you're going to draw a few smaller ones, then you can put them off to the side. So once I have my dot in the middle, then I can either start with flower petals or lines or a star shape. I'm going to start with flower petals because these always seem to turn out well for me. So I started with one oval, then I made another, and whatever I do on one side, then I try to draw the same size shape on the other. I'm just going to keep going till I fill up my circle. And if you are very picky and you want to make sure they're all exactly the same, then just kind of take your time and make sure that when you look at each petal, they look the same length and width to you. So once you have your little flower drawn, then you can start adding in new shapes. You could do spiky lines, some triangles. You can turn your paper as you work. That will also help make it symmetrical. And if you see, I need one more right here to close off that shape. There we go. So this is a good start. And as you can see, mine's not perfect. One side's a little bit bigger than the other. If it bothers me, I can fix it before I move on, or I can just go with it because no one's expecting you to be perfect. Okay, so now I have my little flower slash star. The next thing you can do is either keep repeating petals or introduce a new shape. So maybe this time I want to draw some half circles and make them a little bit bigger. And if you draw really small, then your mandala will be very detailed. But if you draw large, then your mandala will have fewer details and it will grow faster. So now I'm going to back up my camera and I have my circle, my flower, a star, some semicircles. I can either keep going with shapes I've already used or try to think of something new. Maybe I can make a straight line come out from each of those half circles, trying my best to make it the same length on each sides. And if I'm not sure if it looks symmetrical, then I can kind of take a step back, and even though there's 3 up here and 2 down here, I feel like when I turn it, it still looks pretty balanced. And then I'm going to close off this shape. I'm just going to use my imagination and start drawing shapes that come to mind. So as you get further out onto your paper, you can start drawing bigger and bigger, and then you can go back and fill it in with small details if you want. And I'm not even thinking about what I'm drawing, I'm just going with it. For some reason this feels right. Add these little bigger semicircles so you have some repeating shapes. That kind of helps bring it all together. So I don't want to get too crazy and start drawing all kinds of random lines and designs. Once you have like 4 or 5 different shapes or lines, then you can start repeating them. So what do you think? Maybe now it's time for some more spiky shapes, maybe coming off of those half circles I just drew. And I know that I want to make it reach the edges of my paper. I'm drawing a big one, so that helps me decide what kinds of shapes and lines to draw too. How about, what if I connect some things now? So there's some math in making a mandala because you're thinking about how to make a pattern and you're using geometric shapes. That's looking pretty cool. Did you see which one I missed? Sometimes I have to step back and just look at what I'm doing. Yeah, I missed one right there. I could even keep making those half circles. I'm looking at my corners, thinking if I was building this out of toothpicks, how could I build a structure? How about some full circles on the tips? Now let's take a step back and double check. It's looking pretty good so far, so you can think about what are some things that you want to see. Do you want this more closed, or do you like it open? If you like it open, then you can add on to the circles and make them pointy. And once you almost reach the edge of your paper, then you can go back, and this is the fun part. It's all the fun part, but I like to go back and really start filling in shapes inside the shapes. And then you can even trace a smaller circle inside of it. I have a CD. CD is really good for the small inner circle. And if you want, you can even trace inside the CD. So you have this sort of bullseye, and then you can free draw another circle inside of there. It almost looks like the Target logo. It doesn't matter how many rows of smaller circles you have. Maybe just have 1, 2. I have about 4. When I say rows, I mean this area that goes around. So what happens is now you can just kind of draw your shapes on top of those traced circles that you just made. Using the same idea, repeating shapes and lines. I'm using a lot of triangles, circles, dots, and this is too far over, but hey, that's okay. You could erase this and fix it, or just go with it and move on. It does not have to be perfect. That's what makes us human. Our artwork should not be perfect either, because it was not created by a robot. So feel free if you want to hand draw your circles. I just always like that outside one to be nice and straight. Then maybe now I can move on to here. And see how I start on one part of my circle and I keep going until I meet it at the other end. Meet me at the other end. Ooh, I made a mistake. I'll make that a little bit bigger. So this way is nice because now you can decide if you want to go really detailed. You can start filling in your shapes inside of other shapes. And you don't have to worry about, did I do enough? Is it going to be big enough? Because you know that you have all this other room that you can keep adding to. What should I do out here? I always like to go back to my examples because they give me ideas. So if you would like in this video, you can pause right here and really look closely at some of the cool lines and designs. You can also look up mandalas online and you'll find all kinds. Sometimes they get really detailed. So when I am doing art with kids like you guys, I try to simplify it the best I can and compare it to drawing flowers and snowflakes, because they are also radial, which means round, like the color wheel. Look at that one. It looks like a sun. I love it. And again, if you would like to go back and add some of those dots, the next part is to color it. So when you're coloring, you can do rainbow or warm colors or cool colors, your favorite colors. You decide how you want this to look. And when you're coloring, I would start right in the middle and go from there. Thanks, guys.